Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. This is episode 2 of 2025. My name is Trajan. I'm joined once again by random minion caster and 4y4, who is allegedly alive. He claims he's feeling 8 or 9 out of 10, but he couldn't even make it through the intro without pausing the cough, so I don't know, man.
Yeah. Look, the phlegm is a lot looser in the cough, which for my own kind of sickness cycle, and so like it starts out with a dry cough, the one that just like destroys your throat and like nothing moves. But now like the juice is loose, if you will, and I can breathe out my nose without the assistance of decongestant. My temperature regulation is back to where it is. My body doesn't hurt anymore. I went back to the gym this morning. It was sick.
Massive.
Yeah, but occasionally I do have a real juicy cough.
Please don't kill yourself for like overdoing things before you're recovered. I feel like the stages of grief or whatever, and like you're right here, corresponding to denial right now.
Yeah, I'm close. Yeah, but the only thing more powerful than keeping me bedridden with sickness is the fact that I was 20 pounds heavier than I wanted to be at my last physical. And that type of self-loathing for me personally, wow, that is powerful. So
yeah, I points for getting back to the gym earlier than I did because I was ill last week as well. I just cleared up just about before the weekend and could therefore cast, whereas you were a bit more destroyed. But I've still not been back to the gym. Ass. And I had my instructor in my WhatsApp today being like, just checking in. And we're like, yeah, I'm back this week for
just,
sure, man.
Yeah, the just checking in text, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been rumbled, and I now tomorrow will have to be back in the gym. So we'll see how that goes.
I waited for I waited for the New Year's resolution crowd to clear out, and it was a very good choice.
Yeah, that's why
I did not go to the gym for all of January.
Yeah, like small, like I think my gym has class sizes of 6 maximum per like hour slot, and it's the same as it ever was, and it's just like it avoids it getting crowded out wisely.
That's huge.
Helps. Yeah.
That's huge.
Okay, right. Let's talk about some LTA South, gents. We've had a whole week of play. Round 1 of the first split, 4 best of 3s. 11 games total, a lot of distance traveled in a lot of these series, and we have had some pretty interesting results to start us off. It has been the nature of a randomly seeded bracket has certainly reared its head quite quickly, but it's not just ended up with, everyone just assumes the top 4 is the top 4. Very much not the case at this stage. So for those who are watching through a visual medium as well, we'll be able to see the bracket on the bottom right. We have the results from the round 1. And before we get into that, RMC, you had requested, kindly and politely, that we do some general week 1 takeaways. Just a kind of off the dome, what's your biggest takeaway from week number 1? Would you like to go first, as this is your suggestion?
Sure, yeah. I'm down for it. Yeah, so basically I just want to kind of get a temperature check on what everybody's gut reactions were to the first week, since I think it was quite a fun first week. We literally went almost the full distance, 11 out of a possible 12 games. My first instinct after watching the weekend was that teams are actually pretty close to each other. I think LTA South is a lot more competitive than I thought it'd be. And I wasn't even thinking like LA would be a lot weaker than CBLOL teams coming in. I thought there was a gap between the CBLOL teams. But apparently the break kind of closed the gap a little bit. And I feel like teams are a lot closer than I expected.
And let's be honest, we did lose some of our gapped teams. Liberty isn't here anymore. Kaboom's not here anymore. We did keep mostly the strong teams, I will say. So we've naturally closed the gap a little bit, but this does naturally kind of lead into what my take for this is, which is that the LLA players kind of crushed it. The LLA players actually stepped up very hard in week number 1. They did very well, and I was a little bit worried for them, I'll be honest. I was there at Worlds. I saw Pain dismantle. Let's say dismantle. That R7 series was not as much of a dismantling in hindsight.
It was a little closer than we wanted it to be.
Mental dismantling. They got in their heads. They
certainly got in my head, I think. But they were victorious, and there were some gapplings and some skill checks happening there. However, the LLA players, especially the bot laners that came in, Snaker and Ackerman, and Sayo, right? They did really well. I think my main takeaway is the LLA cannot be slept on. They cannot be disparaged, and they've gonna, at least in a performance level, they've integrated right in with no issue.
Yeah, no, it's been really awesome to see, if nothing else, because I mean, if you talk about so much of what was billed with this merger was, I mean, obviously it was because of a financial reality, yes, but you know, a lot of the silver linings that they tried to spin were things like rivalries and things like narratives, right, and regional pride and all that. And to see the Latino teams show up and actually like half the teams in the upper bracket are the hermanos, right? The right as I learned through Valorant, the nickname that Brazilians have for any I don't know if it's just Argentina. I think it's just any like any LATAM friend that you have, someone you hold dear, is manito. So the manitos are they're kind of crushing it. But specifically, who I was and what I'm glad that if you remember in our last episode, we said, all right, we can change our kind of end of season awards, right? Maybe once we agree, maybe once or maybe after every split, right? Maybe twice. I don't know, for the whole year.
Okay.
Miru, man.
Yeah.
Like again, like I saw the tweet where he got like just talking that partida, like he got the MVP for the whole series, like and playing Aurora Yone Akali.
Yeah.
That's sick.
You ran the game.
That's super sick. Yeah.
I will say his Yone.
The Yone wasn't great. That was game two. But when he showed up with an Akali performance, they play similarly. It's not the same, but they play similarly. If you could do it on Akali, I have more faith you could do it on a Yone, right? He redeemed himself there, and
that's fair.
And yeah, and like you come in, right? I mean, like you said, Snacker and Ackerman, like the whole the LATAM Super Friends coming in and holding their own, more than holding their own, doing more than Lion did in LTA North. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, they suffered. They did not come hot out the gate, that's for sure. And like, I just, when you say manitos, just before we move on from this, my like English-speaking, uncultured, small amounts of Portuguese and like Spanish kind of osmosis through my life, literally just, it sounds like Lil Bro. It sounds like you're calling them Lil Bros always. And is
that right?
Still Lil Broing them, even in the friendliest way possible?
It does have Lil Bro energy, but it's like I think it's like it's not Lil Bro, it's little brother.
Okay,
it's more kind of
Lil Bro
it's endearing.
Okay.
Yeah, Lil Bro brackets not derogatory.
Yes, exactly. Okay, fine. We can take that. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Right, because and we do not want to be. I don't know what the verb for derogatory is. Disparaging, I'll go back to again. These people, because they have done very, very well. So
yeah, especially when they're kind of kicking ass.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be disparaging if you're at the bottom of the barrel, but if you're getting your butt kicked,
yeah, if you're defeating the second place team to advance in the first round, we might say we cannot be disparaging anymore. So I know that calling VKS still the second place team does carry a little bit forward in 2024. But
we're doing some heavy lifting there.
Let's get to
if we're gonna Lil Bro anybody, it's VKS.
They got Lil Bro, man.
We may have to be. I think let's talk about the first series. VKS versus Leviathan. Leviathan 2-1 victory over VKS. Coming out swinging. I think games 1 and 3 were the victories there. And this was our tier list, D tier, straight into the win over a B tier, right? So Leviathan, we'd even put them below Fluxy W7M. And here they came and did not look like they were out of step at all. They looked very, very good. The LLA reps looked very, very strong. Pro Delta still hitting, right? Absolutely infused by Pro Delta's play as usual. And the matchup with the pairing with Seo looked very good. Seo popped a cheeky quadra, I think, in that series at some point. Like, that was a big start for him.
Yeah, and he did, and he played the Aphelios as well too, which is not very meta right now. It actually struggles a lot because of the lack of mobility, and that composition where they ran the Aphelios had basically 0 PO. Like they had Renekton, Vi, Ari, and Pro Delta and Rel. Yeah, so the only thing you basically had for peel was Pro Delta on Rel. And if you watch that series, Pro Delta did not peel. Pro Delta was leveraging the law of X's for dear life. Like, he was the first one in every time. He had a chip on his shoulder, and he was shoving that chip up. Yeah, well, VKS was getting that chip one way or another. Let's put it that way.
They received it, yeah.
Yeah, Seo had 0 peel that game, and he made it work. It was actually stunning to watch that. Yeah, I was super impressed with Viton. The way they came out. They had none of the comms issues I thought they'd have.
Yeah, it was the footwork that Seo was showing on the Aphelios was very, very clean. Like, normally it's only really Titan that plays the Aphelios still. Like, semi-regularly, he will bring it out. Even last split, and you know, when we weren't seeing Aphelios very often, but there was always like there's a Titan of Helios in there, but Helios is very, very good, and it was self-sufficient, as you said. It was not assisted most of the time. It was pure footwork, it was pure mechanics that was getting him through these situations. He's getting a lot of damage out and avoiding a lot of aggression. So that's exactly what we want to see. That's exactly what we want to see from him. And the rest of Leviathan, yeah, they look well put together. And they managed to take down VKS. Now, the question to be asked is, we're very happy with what we saw from Leviathan.
Yep.
Is this Leviathan Pog, or is it VKS Dog, is my question. Because how do we feel about VKS's performance in this series? Because we were already a little suspicious, and I feel like our suspicions are quite well founded.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debuts in the Brazil stage in that team, right? Kissy,
Yes.
Morteus, both promoted from Academy. First time in Tier 1. Tier 1 in Brazil. Trimby coming in from LEC, never played in Brazil before. Bull coming back a little bit. I'm curious y'all's thoughts on that a little bit.
From what I saw, he was okay. I mean, like the whole team. I mean, they did have. I mean, game 2, they murder blasted Leviathan.
True. Yep.
Right. And the overarching thing I took away from game 2 was the growth of Desamis, because 2 years ago there is a game that I feel like I reference every time I'm on this podcast and I talk about Desamis. Is there was a game where it was on Super Fluxu. Yep, on Super Fluxu, and he played Viego. He went 5-0-5 to start, and then they hit this massive wall at 20 minutes, and they just got absolutely run over.
Yep.
This did not. It was on Viego again. It was the same thing. And what did he end up with the stat line here? 906. Attaboy. Right, and that's on growth. So, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I watched this series back, and you know, I thought they looked fine. Look, and what encouraged me is they did have a game where they played to their win condition and they just murder blasted Leviathan. And even game 3, right? Game 3 was close, right? There were just a couple of team fights that didn't go their way. Right? I don't think the draft was bad, right? But again, when you pick a Panther jungle, you run into kind of similar sort of problems, right? You're going to hit that wall at 20 minutes. I thought the Vlad from Kissy was okay, but it was cool that he felt good enough to bust that out. And you know, we knew he had that in him from Academy, right? He had a deep champion pool. We saw that. He made it work in Fearless, man. Right? I mean, that was kind of what like your main takeaway. I remember because I didn't watch the final at the time, but I kind of asked you. I had to watch it back later because I had something. And RMC, you were like, no, like Cade Academy won because they just out Fearless Pain.
Yep. Yeah, the drafts are much better. Even in this series, I didn't think the draft was that big. Like, I had questions about some parts of their draft, but it wasn't like terrible drafting. They understand Fearless. CL, I don't know whether or not he was handling their academy team, but the experience has trickled over. If anything, I know that Trimby got a lot of flack for this series. I'm kind of with you, for I don't think that VKS was mechanically bad or anything. I just think it was comm issues. Like Trimby, I think looks bad because he just couldn't play the Trimby style, which is a lot of macro play or map play. It felt like he was disconnected from the rest of the team. Like you'd see I remember his game 3 Poppy especially, like he's wandering around the jungle trying to make certain plays happen and you just don't see the rest of the team with him. And then he just looks like he gets caught out in like really horrible positions. I don't think it was really that. Game 1, I did think some of it was on him. His Alistar was playing like he was freaking, I don't know, like he thought he owned the jungle and he didn't. Actually reminds me of Morteus' previous support, what's his name? Telos. And the way he used to play Alistar, he would just go wandering in like he owns the whole damn plays when his team's behind. Yeah, Trimby felt like that in game 1, but I think he fixed in game 2 and game 3, and it just felt like comms issues. The exact comm issues that we didn't see in the Leviathan, which I thought they would have had.
Yeah.
I was also pretty happy with Kissy. I thought Kissy performed pretty well over the best of 3, and I think that was someone that we were very confident in. His picky URMC were very confident in Kissy's abilities, and I think that's fine. I was not super chuffed with Morteus over the series. I was kind of like, well, I don't see it. I don't see what the big deal is. And especially the Zeri game, I was incredibly unenthused by. I thought there were some straight up bad team fights played and just walking into his grave at times. And I was already like, well, Zeri, even in Fearless, we've not seen a lot of Zeri. Like, if you're going to pick it, I want to see like a reason for doing this. And we did see a reason for picking Zeri later on in the weekend, but Morteus did not give me that reason. I thought it was not a great start. And obviously, if Trimby is not having the best connection with the rest of the team, of quite possible that the same issue is in bot lane. Maybe they're not getting the best out of the 2v2 lane. It's going to set him behind a little bit, and he's not going to have the best setup there, and blah, blah, blah. So it all snowballs into each other. So I wasn't enthused by the bot lane generally. Yeah, I thought Trimby did some good things and did some sus things, and generally it's kind of that there is an information flow, I think, that is not quite ready yet. It was one of the most changed rosters out of all of them, right? Like, well, especially ones that, even including, if we discount Leviathan and Issuer's Estral, which were kind of merged, even them, they normally have like a 3 core that's played together and maybe a couple of differences. Yeah. But I think VKS is a very different beast, and it looks like a very different beast, and I fear that we may not see much more of them in the first split, and it'll be I hope your practice is good for split 2, because we're gonna have to wait and see. I did not seem very impressed by that, honestly. Which is a shame.
They're up against Loud, if I recall, next. Yeah, according to bracket there. Yeah, they're up against Loud. That's so like
that could be a really ugly series.
It could. So like the VKS of the past was able to defeat and overcome a beast like Loud, I think, by having a better understanding of the game fundamentals and not falling into the traps that Brazil tends to fall into versus Loud. Not giving them the windows to punish and team fight their way back into a lost game. But I don't, with a team that's not coordinated, I can't give them a vote of confidence to achieve the same thing. Whereas even in, we'll get onto this in a second, but in Loud Series versus Pain, we saw that same power out of Loud. They still have that ability, and even Pain fell into the trap a couple times. Like, they're not immune. No one in Booze is immune from this. So it's, I don't have a lot of hope for VKS, honestly, after this one, unless they turn it around big time for the matchup against Loud, because it just feels like, and one of the interesting things about this is the interview that Ilya Deslendas had with ProDelta, and ProDelta said basically that CL's position was, if the VKS roster, if it didn't win, it wouldn't stay together, and it came second, and it blew up, and it feels like, I feel like we've taken a lot of backward steps for almost achieving a very impressive goal, and we've thrown a lot out the window when we didn't need to throw everything out the window to try and make it that last little bit over the top. They didn't get 0-3'd in the finals. They took a game, you know, like they were they were present at the grand finals, and it just feels like we've gone so far backwards when they were so close. It just feels like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But
and I feel like we discussed this right on the previous episodes about like the roster changes. We all said, okay, we're giving CL. We put them as high as we did because we extended credit to CL for what he achieved last year.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think the only position we said that was an upgrade from last year's was in the mid lane. Everything else we knew would take time to kind of come together. So yeah, I think this first split they will get run over. Up against Loud especially, they're probably going to lose every single lane. Like Kissy might be able to hold his own against Tinones. I'm honestly scared for top lane, by the way. Bull, like he played Cassante, Mbessa, and Jax. Those are 2.5 carries, frankly, and that is Bull's wheelhouse. Cassante's probably as tanky as we're going to see Bull play, and he got bodied by Zothvi. I mean, I've been very impressed by all the LLA players, like, and I'm talking like the domestic LLA players, not including the imports, like Zothvi, Cody, Seo, on the other side, Snaker, Ackerman, and Jose Deodo. I've been very impressed by all of them. Zothvi is still my only question mark because he played against Bull, and I did not think Bull played well.
Yeah,
Bull, if he struggles against Zothvi, is going to get bodied by Robo.
Yeah, we were like, Zothvi was the, potentially, when we were looking at the rosters, the biggest, like, who is this guy? The results aren't good. The history isn't good. Why was he brought along for this merger package when some other players were dropped? Because we just didn't see the results to pan that out. And he did manage to defeat Bull, I guess. So like he's not asleep at the wheel. He's not necessarily going to be.
He's not useless. Yeah.
No, he's not useless. And we'll see how he does against Wiser next, which is going to be a real test. If Zothvi comes out of the Wiser
you talk about Bull versus Robo. Zothvi versus Wiser might take on a similar timbre.
If Zothvi comes out without like both legs broken, I will be happy enough with that, to be honest. and if he does well, then we can go, okay, maybe it's just an environmental issue, or there's been a lot of growth for him over the past like year or so. It can happen. We just need to wait and see how that pans out. But yeah, Zothvi was my biggest who is this guy, and potentially the biggest like he actually did perfectly fine and was a perfectly
he was solid.
successful part of an overperforming squad. So that was cool. That was cool to see.
Speaking of pain, though, can I just say I am super hyped to watch Seo Pro Delta up against Titan Curry because Seo lost to Titan, right? That was what got Pain over the hump and into the GSL stage.
We've got some juice to go through on that one later on. Don't worry about that. And I've got some social media posts to reveal. So we'll get on to that matchup. But let's talk about Pain Loud. Second match of the, I guess it was first match of the split. Second on this bracket that we have here. The new classic, I suppose. And Pain takes it 2-1, but not after Loud takes them down in the first game, pulling a classic Loud comeback of we're getting outperformed and outmaneuvered in the early game into, you left the door just a tiny millimeter open. That's your mistake. And into team fight win, into momentum snowball, and then they run it down for the win. So that Loud spirit, with new jungle, new support aside, is very much intact. And I love that that's the case, because I'm excited for a more buttoned up Loud, but I wanted them to keep being Loud. And I think that's maybe what we're going to get, which is nice. Yeah,
you talk about week one kind of takeaways / like overreactions. Loud, I mean, again, like maybe it's just, playing Pain seems to kind of, well, I was going to say it seems to bring out the best in them, but I don't know if that's totally true based on what we saw last year. But it was good to see them not just like keel over and die, because Pain, no one, I think even Loud would tell you, no, they are the better team, right? No, there are no kind of misconceptions about that. But they acquitted themselves very well, right? And I think it was also like, okay, they might not have like kind of the crazy hangover that we thought they might. And I think that's good for the league, because Loud are, I feel like they. Do you feel like they are kind of the villains?
So
no.
they
if there was a villain,
just because they were the 4-time champs and everyone wanted to, they ended up as the villains for me before, because they kept winning this split and then bombing international, which for me made them a villain, because they were like strangleholding the region and then not impressing internationally and not like being a good representative in my mind. So they ended up as the villain for me, but now I don't feel like they are, just because of the changes they made. And I think they're taking the loss of the streak in a very graceful way with the changes they made and the coaching staff that they now have. I think that like Loud has done a very graceful pivot from that era into the new era. And we don't, how well it works, we'll still yet to see, but I like the way they approached it,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I think that, oh man, I think I lost my train of thought. They didn't come out and just like keel over and die, but I'm excited, but it made me happy that like, I'm glad that the better team won. And that they won in kind of, the games, they basically beat them in 2.5 games, because like you said, for the first half of that game, the Nocturne Oriana was just like, oh no, this is going to be really bad. And actually, I didn't see with the draft I'm assuming the Ezreal was drafted after the Nocturne Oriana. The Ezreal for Root was drafted after.
I think that it was Nocturne first, wasn't it? And then like Ezreal round 2, I think.
Because that was a great response to a Nocturne Oriana.
So it was drafted after, actually. First pick was Cassante for Loud, and then Pain instantly went for Nocturne Oriana.
R1, R2. That's what I figured. Yeah. Okay. But like then they figured out like, and they abused that Nocturne Oriana combo, right? Like that was the bread and butter, the linchpin of their composition. They figured that out. They dismantled it. Pain got a little desperate towards that kind of mid game, and Loud just ran him over. And it is good that Loud showed that no, it's like, we are still Loud, right? We still have great individual players, right? That's not, aside from maybe Winsome, I don't think any of us were questioning how good are the players on Loud. We know they're really good. Wiz is a CBLOL champion. He is such a strong, stabilizing presence in the jungle, right? And Winsome, like in that game 1 win, he was flashing like on the rel. He was just flash destroying Titan, right? He had these really good, just kind of snap engages. His game sense is clearly there. And I'm glad that the better team won in the end, but I'm glad that Loud also kind of showed up more like, no, you must be this tall.
Yeah.
Right. They weren't like super sloppy. I didn't feel like
it makes Loud's tendency to punish a team for being sloppy in the mid late game and then winning when they're not the champions and they don't win splits by doing that. When they win splits by doing that, it's cringe, because you shouldn't be able to win an entire split by doing that. But when you just like catch the top teams asleep at the wheel and punish them, it's based actually to do that, because now you're exposing a flaw that we can all learn and grow from without taking the trophy away and then like getting exposed at MSI and Worlds. So Loud being Loud now, while still being good and still having this ability to punish, but not like controlling everything, I think is good, and it's a good spot for them to be in, to always be threatening. But unless they improve, they shouldn't win another title. You know what I mean? Like, unless they fix their own issues, they shouldn't win another title. But I like having them there as a tripping hazard for teams that are not going to, like, do their dot their I's and cross their T's after a certain point.
Yeah, it's funny in trading they use the word threatening, because when I looked at this, the way Loud played, I thought they were like, they're a trap card, but I didn't feel like they're threatening. Like you said, I think they punished incredibly well. I think with Wiz and Winsome, their ability to punish is going to get even better. If you screw up, like Wiz and Winsome are both really good at punishing you for that, and Robo Tenon's root provides that floor that they're always going to be a threat. But when I watched Game 2 and Game 3, every time they tried to be proactive, like Winsome's a Bard. Okay, I don't want to call him OTP because in Brazil, like he wouldn't make
absolutely diabolical. I will say, not in a good way. It was really bad. Like that game. It
was rough, man.
There's good Winsome Bard games in the annals of history. This was not one of them.
Yeah, and the thing too was Wiz was on the Xin Zhao and he was trying to make proactive plays, and I thought like every time they tried to go in, it backfired. And same thing in Game 3, right? Wiz is trying to go in with the Vi. I mean, you dropped at the Vi, you have to go in. And it just kept backfiring every time they tried. Like, it feels like Loud has doubled down on their strengths and lost a little bit of their engage ability, right? Like, they're really good at punishing now, and you've got to play perfect games. But if you can't play a perfect game, then they're going to look kind of lost in terms of how to deal with you. So I need to see, and that was my concern with Wiz. Again, we knew Wiz was going to be good, but Croc was the major go button for Loud. And now that Croc's not here, either Wiz or Winston needs to step up to it, and that's what I kind of need to see from this Loud roster for them to be, a top team and threaten once again in the region. If not, it just feels like they're a trap, a stumbling hazard, but not really something.
I think that's fair. I wouldn't expect them to win another split like this. I guess that's fair. So threatening maybe is a bit strong, but yeah, they can take a game off anybody using that punish game, but it's not a formula.
It's not a reliable, repeatable formula.
It's no longer a reliable, repeatable formula that will take them to a title, I think. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. Okay, what about Pain? We talked a lot about Loud. Yes. Pain made 0 changes to their rosters. Yeah. And obviously, they're still working through therapy after we saw Game 1. They still have the exact same problem. Like, props to Root for how he executed the Ezreal incredibly well. Yeah. Guys, that wasn't a Azir. We didn't have to go on the Ezreal every single fight.
Root was Uziing in that game. He was Uzi cosplaying in that game.
But like Karaoke and Dinkedo, they just feel like I'm seeing similar problems to what we saw last split. Yeah. And at International, where it's like, guys, y'all are good domestically, but internationally, I need to see more. Weiser was popping off. Curry was popping off. Titan had a really weird, quirky game that made me very, very worried. Like, that man was going face first, but then...
I don't know if you agree with this, 404. I feel like Pain is exactly the same down to the rest as we left off. They didn't change a player, and they didn't change anything else about anything.
They are back. For sure.
You give them Ash Braum, Titan Curry looks amazing. You give Karaoke Maokai, he goes 4-0-12. You give the kiddo Ari in a frankly not good matchup, and he still somehow makes it work. It's so weird and disgusting. That's it. Tristana's Titan Tristana was nutty, and Dinkido picking out the Swain. I don't think he played Swain great, especially compared to Tinon's, where I
was going to say, like, when I saw that in the draft, in my kind of coming in and out of sleep, I was like, oh, cool. That's the wrong Tinon's pick Sway. Wait a minute.
But I mean, Dinka willing to kind of increase his champion pool, I think is good. I think Swain is a good champion in full Fearless. There are going to be times, especially in LTA South, where we're going to see these sort of full engage compositions, because that's what we do down here, right? Swain's the perfect counter to it. I like that they're branching out. And that to me is good improvement, I guess. But yeah, like you all said, it's basically the exact same Pain, exact same way.
Yeah, and that Pain was good enough to win last split, and it was good enough to beat Loud here today in the 2-1. So yeah, they did get a little fast and loose in game number 1, and they threw it away. But games 2 and 3, they just kind of closed the hole, they plugged it, and did not leave the door open, and they looked way better. So they still appeared to me like favorites to win. I don't know if anyone we'll get into the other teams for now, but I think that's kind of what we expected. So Pain, we're still comfortable with, yeah, there is still growth to be had, and like I'm still after Worlds, I was on the is it time for us to replace the jungle maybe kind of moment, and I still kind of feel that way. No, I'm afraid so. I know Sofchan will hate me for this, but I'm not really a believer in karaoke as I used to be, and I think with like say the problems that were exposed are still going to be there. Who we put in there, you know, maybe that needed to be what like Tattoo was grooming for, but let's give him a split or two.
Well, and I think there was kind of like, I mean, kerfuffle about that. Like I think there was a non-zero chance that he took Karaoke's spot. I think that was definitely something they considered.
There was like a possible Karaoke to some, maybe, was it Furia? Maybe
I can't remember.
There was chatter about Karaoke maybe going to somewhere else, but anyway, so yeah, same pain, same problems, still the best team in the region, at least for now.
Yep.
Fair.
So, other side of the bracket to start off, second day, we had Isurus Estral versus Furia. And now, this one was very interesting to me. I had this pegged as potentially the closest series in the first round. And it did look very close. Now, a lot of the series look very close for various reasons, but Isurus Estral comes away with the 2-1, with 2 hard-fought victories and 1 devastating loss to Furia. And now what this says to me, my main takeaway from this series is on the Furia side, is that this is exactly how Furia win games before, is when they get a lead out of the lane, and if you don't stop them, you cannot stop them. If you don't stop them in like 15 minutes, they will smash you, and it will not look close. But they are not perfect out of that mid game, and if you find a way to drag them down into the mess, they lose the plot a little bit. They lose control of what they want to do. They get a bit messy, and when they're off the rails, they go really off the rails. So, Isurus Estral looked able to survive a lot more in a complicated game state, which is again not what I would expected for a team that is like a bit amorphous and like 3 from one place and 2 imports from the other. The fact they were able to hold up under that pressure is impressive again for them.
Yeah, and I think kind of what you're seeing with, you know, if there are some takeaways from these LATAM teams is that, you know, what we were never worried about experience with these guys or pedigree, right? It was just, is this going to mesh? I think the only guy maybe for pedigree we were worried about across the 2 teams was like maybe Zothvi and Miriu, right? But it is good to see that the experience, if nothing else, is kind of getting these guys over the hump, right? And that's not to say like, oh, you know, they just kind of, you know, through, you know, this is like a clash team, right? You got to fill, right? So I was not to like disparage however much prep they did, because clearly these guys came in prepared, but it seems like their experience is holding them over, right? It was like, it wasn't mistake-free League of Legends, but like you said, Trajan, they didn't get kind of like lost in the sauce. They were able to hold their own when the games got a little spicy.
Yeah, I think that this series, more than any other, went exactly the way I expected, right? Like, Isurus Estral didn't really play with great connection. Like, it wasn't like we saw great macro plays coming through, but Jose Diodo is fast, and he's a good jungler. He knows where he needs to be to make the action happen. Miriu, Snaker, Ackerman, they just all outhands. Miriu especially. That game 1, by the way. The Aurora engages. I was like, the hell is happening here? Like, we've got an Ashe, we've got a Bard, and Miriu's the one kicking fights off? Like, that's mind-blowing for me. But yeah, absolutely, like, insane player. I am concerned for Bertle, though. Like, granted, Gigo, I mean, what was it, 2022?
He was the Korean Slayer.
But Bertle, frankly, my issue with Bertle is that he was picking bad trades. And that's not a Gigo thing, unless Gigo's mind controlling Bertle somehow. Like, Bertle just didn't seem to be comfortable on the Ambessa, didn't know like when to go and when not to go in. His Udyr was struggling. His Gnar too, it's like, why are we getting in melee range of Cassante here? Like, he was just like, okay, I'll take this trade. And this is supposed to be the LPL top laner. This was supposed to be the big signing of the big...
the one that we weren't going to be worried about.
Yeah, the big import signing, that's the word I was looking for, in the offseason. And he just looked questionable. Like, this guy, I'm taking Zothvi over Bertle for a week 1 performance right now. Like, when we're talking LA teams.
That's like my Hedan Robo take, I'll be honest. It's like, because like Hedan had like some good run of games and was performing like very serviceably well, and then doesn't have the experience, but had like a really good, like, he's not doing anything wrong kind of spree. And it's the same dynamic of like big name Bertle being really questionable. And then like, we don't know who this guy is, but he's playing a perfectly normal top lane. I'd rather have that, honestly. I'd rather have the normal top lane.
In the best way possible, you don't notice him.
I mean, we've seen Hedan go up against the likes of Gigo before, and he didn't struggle quite as bad as Bertle did. Which is,
Yeah.
again, it blows my mind that that's the case. I heard apparently Bertle has some level of anxiety and comms because of language issues and stuff like that. So maybe that's part of the issue, but you got to get over that fast, man. This split is just way too short. And you got lucky.
It's also like you know what you signed up for. Also, like this isn't like a surprising thing, right?
Yeah,
you know, there's gonna be like one Korean and then a whole bunch of LatAm people. Like,
exactly.
But yeah, Miryu absolutely deserves a ton of credit for this series. Was hardcore carrying multiple games. And yeah, was getting gold early and not ever like wasting a cent of it. Was putting like being aggressive, finding a load of damage, just chunking it out and playing with that lead. So as an individual talent, he did really, really well. Snaker and Ackerman, rock solid bot lane, like no problems down there. And then that mid jungle duo of Jose Diodo and Miryu was fantastic. Was very, very good. And
I heard people kind of criticizing Ayuzi and Jojo on the bot side. Guys, it's not that Ayu didn't want to do anything in laning phase. It's Snaker and Ackerman just didn't give them the opportunity. Like Ayu was still pumping out damage in team fights. Like I'm not worried about Ayu's
Ayu and Jojo outperformed them, I believe, in the lane in terms of like CS and like that they were ahead in the lanes generally. They weren't smashing them, but they were ahead. They won the lane, as it were. And that's fine. That's what we expected. Ayu and Jojo's very good. They didn't get 3 kills and take the tower at 5 minutes, but they were ahead. They won the lane, and that's kind of all I would ask for them. And for Snaker and Ackerman, sometimes you lose lanes. It happens, everybody, but you don't have to die 7 times to lose the lane. You can go down like 15 CS and just gracefully move into the mid game, and that's kind of what they did. So
they're experts at that.
I don't have any problem with that. Like, that's just going to happen to you sometimes. So,
but people like complain that like, oh, Ayu and Jojo didn't pop off. It's like, bro, like look who they're up against before you say that, man. It's
like a
like
really
these guys are
seasoned duo from the LA who just didn't do anything wrong. Like,
that's
fine,
who did wrong though to me was Tuts. Like I was
he didn't have a great
shocked
series.
that Tuts' performance. He had a good like Ari game, and that was kind of it. And then the Jace game.
I mean, but that's what you always expect from Tuts, right? The Ari, the Tuts, that, again, talk about things that haven't changed, right?
I'm
Tuts on the Ari.
Glad that he's picking the lethality Jace and showing everyone that there are more Jaces. There's not just tank or FNB gave us a bruiser Jace like top lane at one point, but like it's you can still pick Jace mid. It's possible, and like then just like cues into an Aurora 300 HP down at level 3 and dies. So I was like, you've just not read this situation.
Like level 1 just got chunked trying to get to lane, bro. It's like
absolutely you fumbled big time in that game 1 that lane. That was rough. And then Miryu gets the early gold and basically carries the game. So that one's kind of on him a little bit to drop the ball to that degree. So Tuts didn't have a great series, but like his Ari game was fantastic. He had an inconsistent series, we can say this at least.
And like his Victor was also kind of like questionable. Like he just could not find a good Chaos Storm to save his life. It was just incredibly. And okay, that's all about Tatu too, because he's new, and he also got some flack. I thought Tatu played exactly what I expected. Guys, we said that he's going to be a coin flip. He's like Drake Hero on steroids, right? Like, it was always going to be binary. And he did just that. On carries, like Zyra, on Xin Zhao, where you could be aggressive, he made more things happen. On the Sejuani, he doesn't have the same agency. Like, he needs to rely on his team. And I thought his Sejuani was fine,
and even then, he did so much work in the first 10 minutes of that game. He was like 3-0. Did like he was everywhere. He was all over the map, finding gold and kills on the Sejuani. He managed to make that. He made a decent early game out of that. Like he wasn't going to get gold and carry with it, but he was getting positive gold injected into his team and winning lane scuffles. Like that's what's wrong with that? You know, I think he was doing. Yeah, he's aggressive early jungler who made value for his team in every single game, even though they lost 2 of them. Like
I think in terms of debut games or debut series, it was a good one for Tatu. I would happily back his games and say that he did well.
Especially this in game. This in game was hilarious. He was just like living in like living in Jose's face and like shoving.
He didn't even pop the Atakan GA on the last dive.
Like the bot lane was rotating with him. The team was playing with him. Like they were enabling him. I thought this is great. This is what you should do with a play like this. So I think he had a perfectly fine, especially as a debut in tier 1. Like let's give the guy a break for not literally beating like. Some people are saying 2nd, 3rd, 4th ranked team in the league out the gate. Like, come on now.
Yeah, that's it. No, I mean, I have no notes. I mean, that was kind of my takeaway was that you have to take into account the quality of the opposition they faced here. This was a really, really tough first round draw that they got, and they performed just fine. We're going to learn a lot more about them in this second series. Right, like I think the most fascinating lower brackets. I mean, there are only 2 lower bracket series. Good job, but I think the 2 teams we're going to learn the most about are Or is it going to be Cade or Loud? I think I kind of.
I think it's
I've
Cade.
written
I
my
don't
book
think
on
Loud's
Loud. I think
gonna
it's
show
Cade.
us
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, it is good. We don't.
I think it's Cade, but it's going to be Furia, right? Because
Yeah.
like it's like you said, it's like with the Leviathan. Was it Leviathan Pog or Cade Dog? It's that's kind of what we're asking ourselves here with IE and Furia to a lesser degree. And so Furia, you go up against W7M, whatever, Cat Dorflex, MIBR.
FX7M is such a horrendous code, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's
ugly
like
quad code. Absolutely
it's like-
horrendous.
remember when Trajan, you remember this? You were up there when that volcano in Iceland exploded and it grounded a bunch of flights around the British Isles.
Yeah.
You were there. You were in the volcano.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Lore about Trajan that you didn't know. And it was like, and the whole rest of the world found out about how ridiculous that name was, and it was like there was a like all these Icelandic names, how it's just like a mishmash of letters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a meme that went viral. Was like, oh, like I know that these these people that name the volcanoes are cat people. Well, how do you know that? Because cats walk all over the keyboards. And that's how that must be how they got its name. That's what this quad code feels like.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, like if for anyone who knows anything about the Welsh tongue,
gorgeous, incredible, love the Welsh language,
the most cat on a keyboard language of all time. It's pretty funny. So Furia. So the top side was actually pretty good. I thought Tati did well. I thought Gigo just crushed. Like, he was great.
Yeah.
And didn't miss a beat
He's
the whole
awesome.
series. So that top side, so we know, I'm pretty confident in saying this top side's an upgrade at this point.
Yep.
Tatu is a very different player, but I think they know what they need to do with him, and he's able to do the thing he's good at. Like, so that's cool,
Yeah.
and Gigo's just great. So if the rest of the map can keep, like, progressing, and, like, Tuts can get on board, and Ayo and Jojo were good. They were solid in lane at the very least, right? There was actually there's the one moment that just I found really funny in, I think it was game 3 or game 1, but it was on Ayu's Jin game where they have
Game
Atakan
1.
and they're like taking Baron. They're like mounting a comeback at that point, and they're taking Baron, and then Ayu just like turns tail, walks straight into the 4 members of Isra Ancestral, and dies with the Atakan like GA withdrawal on it. And I was watching it going, has he lost his mind, or does he think it's optimal to just run in and kill himself? Because then they like don't get the Baron, and the game, like, their comeback stops there. Like they lose all their Atakan buffs. Oh,
You start gaslighting yourself like, I'm stupid?
No, I think I think they did get the Baron, but they lost all the Atakan buffs, and it was just like, is he like, we've got this, I'm going to optimally use my withdrawal by just running into 4 of them, but like the Baron still has 4k HP or something. It's like, I'm just like, because the thing that I took away from this is the Atakan GA buff is just throwing such a massive wrench in the player's calculations, I think, of like, what is it? How optimal is it?
I think
to
you're
just
absolutely right.
rush this Baron, or just send it down mid, or like when you have that buff, I think they all go a bit crazy. And they're like, I could do anything. I could do anything right now, and they just go and do something. And it's like, was this good? Maybe. But
Yeah, because Brunsey did the similar thing, right? They were doing the inhibitor push, and then
With the
Brunsey
Corki play.
literally
Yeah.
like 3 seconds before it wore off too. Like he goes
gave me a
diving
heart
into the enemy team, and I'm like, if they mess up, if they don't land the initial skill shots, Brunsey's actually gonna die and still proccing the GA here. And
Yeah.
they're also playing on live patch, so they were playing on the patch where each Atakan death with the GA gives 200 gold. So when you get wiped and cause your team to get wiped, you're still giving over like 1,000 gold to the other team.
Yeah, it's not nothing. Like, you don't give.
I'm very glad they did that, by the way. You have to just have to be a lot more intentional about it, because I think, to your point, even with this, right? And we know that pro players don't always read patch notes, so maybe he just didn't know that. But it is good that you can't just go full ooga booga, because as we've seen, like, none of these players besides Tinones and Robo have their frontal lobes fully developed. So
Are we sure about the Robo one?
I think it's fully developed. I just think it got like they put the Jello in a really rough shaped mold. You know what I mean? like it's in the mold. It's settled. It's the fault of the mold. It's developed, but
Yeah.
That's the clip we need right there.
It's just different. It's not. He's just different.
me.
Guys. He's just different.
it's me calling Robo slow to his face. That's
So Furia, I think, definitely there's a clear path to progression here. So they've not picked up, I think, necessarily they're kind of exactly where they started, to be honest. They have a different top side, there's a little different dynamic there, but when they win games, they look the same, and that's the main takeaway for me, is that they clearly have the same skills to close out games really cleanly, and that's a skill that not many LTA South teams have. So that's impressive. And then for Isra Estral, I think, they've just got good-ass players who know how to play good-ass League, and they have the potential to individually carry from different roles, and especially mid-jungle, I think is really good. So they took the 2-1. They move on to the next round to face the winner of the last series, Red Canids versus Fluxu W7M. Our only 2-0. Red took it. Looked pretty conclusive. It did not look necessarily like a Furia win, if you know what I mean. Like, these were not Furia wins, but they were Red Canids
this is
wins.
red through and through.
They were Red wins, for sure. And you never really doubted them, but they sure did have a little bit of a fun. They have a little bit of fun during those games.
Anyone surprised by the outcome here?
Nah.
Nope.
Pretty much. I'm trying to think of, like, because Red is just Red. They're still Red. They're still really good. FMB's really good. Brunsey and Frosty are still really good in lane. Brunsey's still a carry. Oh, so this is to connect back to what we said before. This was the second Zeri that we saw. And when I saw this, I was like, oof, Zeri, yikes. And I remember when we were doing the draft, I thought, this is a perfect Brunsey Zeri angle. But Zeri didn't seem that good. And I saw that Mortius game. It didn't look good in that game either. No one's playing it. But Brunsey took it, and as a champion that is just impossible to pin down, it's still Zeri, right? And I think in a niche like that, where it's like, if you want the most mobile, self-sufficient kind of, you can bait them in, you can still get decent DPS, but mostly you're just kind of wasting your opponent's time and really flexing the mechanics. I love it in that spot, where it's not actually doing the most DPS of anything as well, because I think when it's both, it's toxic and not balanced and bad. So I like where Zeri sits right now. It's like, if you can actually hands check them, you get a huge amount of value out of it, but it's not going to be just the optimal choice every time.
And if we're talking about that, we got to highlight first pentakill of LTA history, both North and South.
We did.
Yep.
Mr. Brunsey.
On day two. To be fair, though, I don't think Brunsey, did he deserve the penta? Or, his team really gift wrapped that one for him. Let's put that way.
As AD carry pentas go, it was fairly like run of the mill. It was not. There wasn't too much massively impressive stuff on display in that instant. There was some impressive stuff from him through the series, but that was not. He last hit 5 kills and got a pentakill, which is great. Good job. Yeah, he didn't run it down. So excellent, and it's nice to have a pentakill. Mr. Botgap himself getting the first one.
Yep.
And dare I say, this was kind of one of the only, if not the only, actual major bot gap of the first round, because I think Marvin and Geeks didn't have the best of time versus Brunsey and Frosty, like at least in a 2v2 sense.
Okay, actually, I want to speak on this because I felt like Marvin got screwed. Like, I thought Marvin did great, and then I thought Gigs screwed.
Yeah, Gigs definitely. Yeah. I'm remembering the Leona game, but Gigs definitely didn't have a good time. Yeesh. So it's like Marvin, maybe, because I saw like a lot of, I think some Brazilian like pundits were unhappy with Marvin, or like commenters were unhappy with Marvin, and I remember thinking like, well, I don't remember him being like horrendous in that game, but I think the bot duo suffered, and maybe we can attribute Gigs a proportion of that, a large proportion of that. I don't know.
Before you want to share your thoughts, I'm trying to check some stats. So
he's going to the tapes.
Yeah. I mean, I got to go to the tapes for this one too. I mean, there wasn't really anything that I thought was like, I don't know, insane about the series. This one I didn't get to watch back closely yet, but it was. Yeah, I mean, we didn't see anything like too kooky. I guess in the red drafts, right? FNB. I'm glad that because he's someone who also sometimes has a propensity to start a split slow, and he'll kind of hit his form late. And in playoffs, it's a mixed bag. It's gotten better. I think he has shed the choker narrative.
Yeah,
but
he's getting elo held in playoffs now by Red. Is my opinion. I think he's full circled on that one, and it's mostly Brunson getting caught in mid lane that is the problem with Red games these days. So.
No, but I think again, like it felt like a bit of a no notes. This is kind of what we thought they were going to be, and it's just good to see all the pieces kind of fit where they should, because this team, again, we talked about it on like kind of the tier list episode. Continuity is going to play such a big role here. Well, I guess I don't. Maybe not, because we talked. The two LATAM teams have the least amount of continuity, and they hit the ground running. So clearly we overestimated continuity to a small degree, but with Red, it really showed in that, they didn't do anything, overly stupid, but also, again, you have to look at the quality of the opposition. I think against Asurus Estral, right, you could not play two more different teams, in my opinion, from Asurus Estral to Fluxo W7M in terms of just like how good the fundamentals are right now. So talk about a yardstick game for Red. This next week is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so the stat I was trying to check was I just want to see how Marvin did in relation to the rest of his team. Because, look, I get the criticism. Marvin had the lowest goal difference at 15 of all 80 carries. But, again, I pegged that on Geeks. Because when you take his overall stats, he had the highest KD on his team, 5.7. The next closest was Fu at 2.1. Granted, that's because Marvin didn't die. His Ezreal game was very, very clean. And I think on the Varus game, he only died like a handful of times, like twice or something like that. He did the most... He had the highest kill participation as an AD carry. Now that's rare. It's usually the jungler, the support, maybe the mid laners. He also had the highest damage share on his team. So when I look at all these stats, I'm like, no, man. Like I think Marvin was fine. Like, look, is he better than Brunsey? No, that's fair. But I don't think it was the Marvin side of things that was the issue for that bot lane. I think Giggs kind of got exposed a little. Just didn't quite have the same impact that you'd like to see from that Renata. And then I think the top side was the other big issue. In game 2, I thought Marvin and Giggs did fine. That was like a massive freaking F&B gap. Like F&B was here to play. And he just cascaded everything all over the place.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Fu did well too. I think remember when we were casting it, it felt to me like one of those games where you personally, like, you're playing a solo queue game and you're really fed and you're like, I can carry this game. I'm doing so well. My team is struggling, but like, I'm doing really great. And then you make one bad decision and the game is over. The game just ends. And you're like, why are it was my team allowed to make 12 mistakes a minute and I get us to 25 minutes and I make one bad decision and I lose instantly off that. And that's how it felt like to me for Fu, where he had good games. He's still a very, very proficient mid laner. He was doing more than he should have had to do on the Azir game, especially. Like, almost feel like he's feeling like he has to force plays when he's not building that way, and his champion doesn't necessarily need to play that way, and he's sacrificing himself and his like optimal play style to try and make something happen and get his team back into it. And it just felt like he was doing so much work, and as soon as he wasn't playing absolutely perfectly, that the whole team couldn't hack it anymore.
Yeah.
So
literally both games, like the moment Fu got caught, game was over, right? Like Red just rammed it down their throats. And I want to highlight too, like we talked about Miru's Aurora engage. Fu had to do the same damn thing in game 2. And that comp had me like choking that Fu had to do it. Miru didn't have to do it. He did it because he was good. But Fu literally had to do it, and his team had a Jax, a Wukong, a Varus, and a Renata. Arguably, all 4 of them have engages. And it's the Aurora that had to engage? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I think Fu was a little hard done by here. Certainly most elo held in week 1, I think we can say. I feel Fu is probably most elo held in week 1, because Prods' team actually stepped up big, so... we'll see how that develops. For Fluxus W7M, none of us had super high hopes for them, but there's clearly individual skill there, and we'll see how they go against Furia, I suppose. Let's look at week 2. That's how the first week shaked out. So our week 2 matchups, winner's side, Leviathan versus Pain, not one people expected, and then Asurus Estral versus Red Canids, and that one's very interesting to me. So we'll I assume this is winners and losers side happening next weekend as well, right? It's like still 2 series per day.
So losers on Saturday, winners on Sunday.
Yeah. Now I'd like to talk about Leviathan versus Pain through the lens of a specific tweet here from Titan. And now 4x4
dude.
As our resident Portuguese speaker, would you like to translate this tweet for us?
Okay. A verdade é que a Ilha das Lendas tá chupando as bolas do cara do LTA South, which means the truth is that Ilha das Lendas is sucking the balls of the guys from LAS. Now, here I actually didn't know 100% what he meant. What now? Did he mean like os cara do LA Sul? Like, does he mean like that they are, brown nosing? I actually don't know here, and if you guys know, tell me. Like, is he talking about the talent or?
It's in a brown nosing.
Yeah, no, I know it's brown nosing, but is it brown nosing who? right? Because they say like, oh, he's brown nosing the guys from LATAM South. We are all LATAM
both
South.
IE and Leviathan. They were basically saying that those guys
basically
are,
all
like,
of them,
kinda-
as we have been kind of, because I think they did very well. So, but this is
I
time.
only brown nosed IE a little bit.
Eu vou desmascarar a farsa desses cara no próximo final de semana, and I'm going to unmask the farce. I'm going to unmask their farce this next weekend. Which great verb choice by Titan.
Yes,
because he has colorful language and he went in his bag on this one. Vocês vão ver que realmente enfrentou o Faker de verdade e quem solou o Mayusi no 2v2. Awesome, by the way, and you guys are gonna see for real the man who faced down Faker and solo boloed Gumayusi in a 2v2.
True, so true.
So true, bestie. Go get him.
Yes, absolutely. So we love that from Titan.
I love Brazil.
We love where his head's at. We love Brazil. We love the energy here. So Titan clearly still feeling confident, and this is going into Seo, the person who he did somewhat stunt on at Worlds against R7, and someone who overperformed and has arrived in front of him on Leviathan. And it's side by side with Pro Delta as well, which is funny because we still have like a 1 degree removed law of X's in the past.
There's
Titan,
lore there, man. Yeah.
Titan had the opportunity to play with prods and said, nah, I don't want this guy. I want Curry.
Well, give me Curry. Yep.
And now
he beat prods last year already with Smiley. So
exactly. So there's so much energy in the bot lane specifically here, and I'm glad that we have this juicy round 2 matchup following the upset.
Yeah. And here's what's I think very kind of interesting and kind of sick about this is that like Titan's talking a lot of smack, but like I mean in some ways it's actually not as fun because it doesn't feel like it, like there obviously is something to lose here because if you go out there and fall on your face, right? That's bad news bears. But this feels like the first time that I can remember that someone has talked smack in Brazil while also just kind of putting their whole, you know what on the table. And
no,
like
Ranger's done it before.
but it's like but not even Ranger has like had he's not had as big of a what. He's put his what on the table. But Titan has a hog. Titan has the zip tie to his leg, dude. Titan, look, we had a friend in high. This might get cut out. We had a friend in high school whose nickname was Tripod. Titan is not Titan. Titan is Tripod because he put out his whole resume, and you can't argue with a single lick of his resume. Titan has had a better last 12 months than any Brazilian player since maybe Loud or like the INTZ Exodia days. He is on top of the world and he is spitting game. He is standing on business, right? The Jeopardy is the letdown, right? Because often you see players talk smack and you're like, all right, you got to go out there and prove something. Titan doesn't have to prove a damn thing, right? He laid down the whole thing. We're all kind of like looking here. We're just like, actually, there are no lies.
Yeah. It is straight facts all the way down.
The joke is, you talk like Time put his own resume up. That's not his resume. That was just his last tournament.
That was like last week.
No, that's one bullet point on the resume.
Yeah, never mind the titles like across multiple teams and all of this. Like, so yeah, the energy coming to this one definitely powerful. Pain certainly still expected to be the favorite here, but Leviathan showed very, very competent gameplay, very synced up gameplay, individual skill as well. And Pain are going to... It's a very different opponent to Loud as well. I think it's the styles and the players are completely a different ball game. So we'll see how Pain responds to that, I suppose, because I think they got used to being the team that's just... The way they play the game was good enough to beat everybody in every theater last split. And so that they took that first challenge very well in their stride, and now we'll see what happens with the underdogs coming in.
Here's my prediction for that game.
Go ahead. I'm really glad that as far as the upper bracket is concerned, we still got the lower bracket to resolve. But as far as the upper bracket is concerned, I'm very glad it shook out this way because it definitely feels like of the 4 teams left, the 1 seed is playing the 4 seed in this semifinal, and then 2 and 3 right now are kind of in the other semifinal, right? Like it would have been a cooler semifinal in a vacuum if if Titan was talking to Smack, then you got to go up against Red or Asurus Estral because those are going to be obviously better competition than Leviathan, but we are set up for a banger upper bracket final.
Yeah, agreed. And I do think as well, what I really like about the trash talk is the fact that this is the trash talk that we'd see within Brazil, within CBLOL all the time, right? But we don't usually see the Brazilians actually trash talk other people like this or other regions like this. They're usually quite respectful actually when they go to international and whatnot. So to me, this feels almost like we're welcoming in the LLA teams. Like we're not saying that, hey, you know, like, we're separate. You know, it really is like, hey, you know, little brother, like we take you into the family, right? We're going to treat you like one of us now. And granted, they have
baptism by fire.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And they have Vaughn, they have Pro Delta, they have Scary. They do have Brazilians in their team, so maybe that makes Titan feel a little bit more comfortable. Him and Pro Delta, I mean, you've seen them talk even after Pro Delta left. Pro Delta was still close to Denkedo and Karaoke and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying that. That said, though, we hype up this bot lane. Here's my prediction for that series. It's going to be the Wiser show. Watch is going to take over the entire game.
Yeah, if there is a gap to be exploited, right? You talk about like the biggest disparity between lanes. I agree with you, RMC.
Well, yeah, bot lane's going to have a 10 CS difference. Everyone's going to go, whoa, and then Wiser's going to be 3-0 with like tower taken at 10 minutes, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this seems tough to play for Sayo, regardless of how he's doing in the 2v2. So,
yep,
yeah, I think it's for Cody and to Denkedo, I have no idea. I really just don't know enough about Cody in terms of like how he's going to fare against all these mid laners. I think he had a perfectly good series versus VKS, and Kissy like did well. So we'll see how Denkedo plays, because Denkedo to me never feels like he's not like an oppressive dominant player. He doesn't like smash his opponents. He can outperform them and out statistic them, but he's not going to run them over, generally speaking. So we'll see how that interacts with Cody, who also had a fairly similar experience, right? He was just like, I'm not going to like deal with you, Kissy. You're going to do whatever you want. Like, you're trying very hard over there, and I respect that, but I'm just going to pick Corki and kind of farm it up, and like, I'll see you later.
You know what's actually funny about Cody? Cody's actually, okay, Vaughn's a Brazilian coach, right?
Yeah.
Cody actually went to Worlds with Vaughn back in 2021. And I think MSI that year as well, too, if I recall. That Infinity roster, I think, won both splits of it. So he's played with Vaughn as his coach before. And then back in MSI 2024, Cody looked like the main carry on that team with Jose Deodo. Like Snaker and Ackerman were solid, but I think on the international stage, bot laners often struggle to be like the huge carries, unless they're like Uzi or Jackie Love or something like that. Yeah, Cody felt like a primary carry there. So I do think Cody probably will win out that lane against Denkedo, but I kind of don't care if Denkedo wins a lane or not, because if he wins a lane, I'm already, yay, great! And then he'll like play the Yone, and I'll be like, oh, well, but what are you going to do after the laning? Yeah. Or he'll play the Ahri and then not win lane, despite the fact that Ahri is lane dominant, and then still have a ton of impact later. So
really well. Yeah, doesn't
really I kind of don't care about what happens in lane with Denkedo at this point.
Yeah, so I think bot lane is spicy because of the fire, the fuel added to the fire there, and top lane I think is where we're actually going to be looking to be like, okay, Zothvi, now's the real time to show us if we can hold up against the pressure here, because Wiser is just the man. So at least in top lane. So second, other side of the bracket, let's get the bracket back up there in the corner. Isrus Estral versus Red Canids. This is going to be a fascinating game. Fascinating.
Hands aplenty.
Hands aplenty. Cleanliness absent. Strategy void. Gaming constant. Like that is. So I'm like thinking about the way this matches up. This is a potential big problem for Birdall again, because if Gigo absolutely ran him, dog walked him up and down the lane for 3 games, FMV is probably going to do something similar unless Birdall wakes up or has a very big turnaround otherwise into next week. Aegis into Jose Deodo is actually pretty fascinating as well, because they're both real activity heavy junglers who like to lead the charge and you know, drag their teams kicking and screaming behind them.
They can be main characters.
Yeah. Grevthar into who's the Isra mid lane again?
Miryu.
Miryu. I guess that's another pretty big disparity in terms of how good Miryu looked versus Grevthar. Like, not like a lane smasher by any means. Like, his Victor was okay, and Grevthar is still playing fine, but that seems like another potentially unbalanced like lane. We're not expecting to just see them farm it out evenly. I would expect like someone's going to probably get an advantage somehow, whether Grevthar opts to just walk away from lane or not. And then bot lane is another big test for Staker and Ackerman, right? It's another very, very strong duo. So there's everywhere you look, there's an interesting angle going into the series, I think.
Yeah, fully agree. I think this is just one where like I'm gonna approach it kind of no thoughts, hit empty. I'm just there to watch.
Just let it wash over you.
Yeah.
Just observe.
That's how they'll approach it too, RMC. So
no thoughts, hit empty.
Yeah. But you're actually casting it, aren't you, for on Sunday? So
Ooh.
I am. Oh, did the schedule drop already?
Oh my god, the leaks.
It's on the sheet. It's on the sheet. Let me.
Oh, 'cause I put my availability for I could do both days, but I can only do first series for both.
Is it?
Only first series. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Then
Is that not what I put?
you did put that.
This
Okay,
is a
good.
conversation for us to have outside
Anyway,
of the podcast.
yes.
But this is first series. This is first series. So yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So Isris and Red. So you guys are gonna have some excitement. Certainly some play-by-playable moments. I feel like in this series.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, this I don't really know how to predict how any of the matchups are gonna go. Except I think FMB is probably going to win, and that's about all I got really.
Well, I'm gonna predict Greftar is gonna lose CS because he's been dropping like it feels like almost every third wave. And okay, guys, we didn't talk about this actually. We probably should have. Against Fluxu W7M, Greftar did not need to drop that many waves. Like Aegis wasn't even calling for help or anything. Greftar was just dropping waves anyways. Like guys, Brunty and FNB were winning. Greftar's just got it like beaten into him at this point. Like Coelho, I don't know what sort of training they go through. Coelho's probably just like every time Greftar tries to see bad Greftar, no, and so he's
He gets the spritz bottle.
Yeah.
It's like training a dog.
I just don't know why Greftar's dropping waves. And if you do that against Miryu, yeah,
he's gonna scale and he's gonna try and kill you and probably succeed, and then he's gonna kill your whole team. So, sheesh. Yeah, that mid lane. Yeah, if they let Miryu, basically, it's an opportunity for Miryu to once again get very far ahead, and we saw what he does when he gets very far ahead. Is he carries best ofs. So, FMB could be outperforming, but Miryu could also be stepping right up as the opposite side carry there. So, and the jugglers are just going to be going crazy. So that's going to be a fun one for sure. Lower bracket VKS Loud. We've kind of touched a little bit on it already. No one's super chuffed with VKS. There's plenty of reasons not to be chuffed with Loud as well. But do we think? How close do we think this is going to be? And who do you think's actually favored here? RMC, like, because I naturally want to favor Loud from what I saw. Mainly because I don't know if VKS is going to put a clean game together. And if you don't put a clean game together, I feel like you're not going to beat Loud late.
Yeah, I think this is the worst possible matchup for Kate Stars, honestly. Other teams might make mistakes. I don't think... Loud's only mistake might come from Winsome, but Mortius and Trimby is not the bot lane to punish that. Like, that's a stable bot lane to me, not one that's going to blow this game open. So, I heavily favor Loud in this matchup, unfortunately.
I'm kind of right there with you. I mean, I think again, it's getting used to the new kind of identity of Loud, because even when you said like, Loud's not really going to make mistakes apart, like there's a cardinal part of me that's just over 4 splits, but like, well, that's not true. That's all they do. Like, but but that's not really but that's not as much the identity of this team right now. There's no more Croc. Robo seems to be kind of back on a leash a little bit, right? And I just think, I think again, we have to give CL the benefit of the doubt. This is a embarrassingly short split. I think Cade will be fine. Will they be as good as last year? I don't think so, but they could be. But that is a conversation for much, much later. I think the most likely outcome, if you were to ask me, of the I guess 4 possible outcomes, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1, I think it's allowed 2-0.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's going to be allowed 2-1. I think from what I saw in the VKS win over Leviathan, it was like a pretty conclusive. It was like 24-3 in kills or something. It was swift and it was relatively merciless. And I think that if they can pull it off against Loud, I don't think this current iteration of Loud is in a position where they can rebuff that, because it's too quick for them. It's too fast. Like, it's sub 25. Like, they're not going to open it. So I think it's going to be 2-1 Loud, but I don't think VKS can do that every game. And I think Loud does have elements like Wiz, particularly, who are going to just save them from themselves a little bit, and just be better in that mid and late stage with the experience they have, and just the understanding of how to win a lost game that just is better than anyone else in LTA South. So possibly in LTA entirely, honestly, at this stage. So Furia, Fluxu, W7M is the last one. Would anyone like to give Fluxu W7M a game versus Furia? I personally wouldn't, but would anyone like to give them a game?
I feel like this is higher shots than Kate starts winning a game.
Sure. So I have more faith.
I disagree, but I think they're close.
Yeah. Because like for Fluxu, I'm trying to think like what the good part of Fluxu 77 is. Like Fu, great. The Marvin, solid. But somewhat hamstrung by Geeks, at least for now. We'll see if that continues. Maybe it was just a bad day, but potentially hamstrung there. Drake Hero's solid, yeah. Like, in terms of what Tattoo's doing versus what Drake Hero's doing, like these are the same. They're the same guy, so
Yeah.
like they can both do the same thing. And then top lane is Gigo versus
Hidan.
Yeah,
So
that could get ugly.
you already mentioned earlier today that Hidan did better into Giga than Robo did at some point. So like Hidan can be just solid. I did not love his Cassante, especially compared to Giga's Cassante, which made me feel something. Like Hidan's Cassante made me feel absolutely nothing. I was void inside watching it. Like I do think Gigo is just better. And I think Hidan will be invisible because of that. I don't think he's going to get smashed and like be like an anchor in an active sense, but RMC, you and I have had this discussion before, talking about players like Robo as to like, is being invisible better than being an active detriment kind of thing? And I think that Hidan will become invisible in a bad way, but I don't think he's going to run it down the way Birdle kind of did into Gigo several times.
Yes.
So I think he's going to do better in that sense, but I also think he's going to be consistently outvalued by.
And I guess that's kind of why in my head I'm kind of thinking like I think Fluxu W7M has a better shot than Kate's against Furia than Kate's has against Loud, because Furia, despite Gigo winning, still lost against Isra Zestral. And I'm not saying Fu is Miru. I'm not saying Drake Hero is Jose Deodo.
Yeah.
But there's high enough variance on Tatu and Tuts from last week, and just prior games we've seen Tatu in Academy, that I could see him absolutely running his face off against Drake Hero. Like I feel like those junglers they have the potential to be incredibly like snowballing one way or the other. And when you get two of these type of junglers going head to head, all sorts of weird things can happen, right? And then bot side, I don't know, Marvin Giggs, IU, Joda. Okay, Marvin Giggs is definitely not Snaker Ackerman, so that's where I hesitate a little bit. But I could see Furia still potentially screwing up. I still think it's going to be a 2. I think week 2 is going to be the opposite of week 1. Week 1, we had like 11 out of 12 games. I think we'll this time have, 9 out of 12 potential games. I think only one will go 3 games.
I think IE and Red will go to 3 and the rest of 2-0s, I assume. Would be my guess. War 4, do you have any more faith in a game for Fluxu or
Nah, I think they'll get 2-0'd, but again, like they might not, but if this series at the end of the day goes any other way, I'd be very, 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 very surprised.
Yeah, and we're really looking for Furia to show us that they can use that proficiency at closing games against the worst team to do it, and not just
exactly
trip themselves up. So we shall see. Right, last thing we're doing today is we have some community questions. We have some questions from our community Discord provided by Lunar Day very generously. So we have 3 to look at, so I'll bring these up here for anyone watching. You'll be able to see it on the screen, but we shall read it out as well. So the first question is, which lower bracket team do you most trust to win the tiebreaker best of 1 between 3rd and 4th seed? So to be clear, at the end of the lower bracket, there is a best of 1 between the last 2 teams. So at the end of the upper and lower bracket, there's a best of 1 to seed 1st and 2nd in the upper bracket, and 3rd and 4th in the lower bracket. So there will be some new teams entering that lower bracket as we continue. You know, one of IE and Red and one of Pain and Leviathan will drop down and be entered into this conversation. So I think for completeness, we can include them as options for who's going to win this best of 1. But in terms of who you most trust to win, a best of 1 essentially is the core of this question out of who's going to end up down there. A best of 1, honestly, it's probably Louder Furia for me. Because I think Furia have some of the cleanest best of 1s I've ever seen in the region. Over from last split to this one, including their game 2. And then Loud has that element of just inexplicably winning any best of 1 that they're in, just regardless of the rest of the factors involved. So it's probably one of them 2 for me out the gate. I don't know if anyone else has a different candidate they would like to suggest as a to put trust in to get that 3rd spot.
Yeah, I think it's. I was gonna say Loud. Just because I think again, like it's not even like inexplicably they just kind of win. Like they're just very experienced. And I don't see them not being one of the teams that get through, right? And again, like in a best of 1, they're probably not going to be playing someone like, again, if the bracket goes how we think, right? Their worst opposition would potentially be Red. They could be Red in the best of one, right? Red could as well, right? Red, I think, have a very high ceiling. I think right now, Red might even have a higher ceiling than Loud. I don't know if I totally believe that when I say that, but
I think I'd maybe
hopefully you guys know kind of where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, yeah.
Red finally were the team to finally unseat not Loud fully out the lower bracket last year in that last split.
Right.
They finally were the ones to do it. And Fury are the one who lost to them both times in the best of 5. So
We should have done it both times.
But they should have beat them both times. And those best of ones, like the first games, if I'm not mistaken, I think I actually won game 1 both times. So in the best of 1, if it was the case, Furia would have been the winner. I'm just saying. So
True, yeah.
I think I'd like
fair.
to. I'm probably gonna pick Furia because I want to believe in them still. I think Loud. Whenever I like pick Loud to win, it's always like I never have a good logical reason for doing this. It's always like Loud.
That's something
magic.
in your gut. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pick Furia just because I think in a best of 1, like I say, I think they're one of the best of 1 teams in terms of like how they look from Nexus spawn to Nexus destruction in games. I think they put really, really good games together. But like, if Red gets knocked down to the lower bracket, absolutely, they're probably in the conversation, and they very well could be by INE.
Yeah, I just question Furia, and I haven't seen enough of Furia. Like the 3 games we saw leaves me with a very disjointed impression of them. Like it just shows really high variance, and so I don't. It's hard for me to say Furia, and I do have a scientific reason for saying Loud. It's called PTSD. So
Okay,
4 times
diagnosed.
Diagnosed.
So at this point, I'm just gonna say Loud, but I do think so these are 2 best of 3s they need to play, both Loud and Furia, if they were to get to that best of 1, and that's gonna be at least double what we've seen from these teams already. So I'll say Loud this week, and then I'll reassess next week.
Sure.
In before Kate Stars knocks out Loud, but
And then this whole thing
I'd have to change it that
would
way.
be the most Loud thing, honestly. To do anyway.
That wouldn't
I'd be
stun me.
shocked.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm for Furia, RMC, and 404 for Loud. We'll see. We'll check in back on this next week and see if we still feel the same way, because there's a lot can change after 1 best of 3, that's for sure. Second question from Luna Day is, which LTA South team from the upper bracket do you not want to see play the LTA North? Who do you think is not going to represent us well on the international stage here? And for reminders, that is Pain, Leviathan, Red Canids, and Isserus Estral. Who do you not want to fly the banner over to cross-conference play?
All right. Let's all say it on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Leviathan.
I'm good with all of them. I'm good with all. I have cases of why I want to see all of them face off against Lat North. So like generally speaking, like I'm not even like trying to be a cop-out answer here. Like Red would be like the most Brazilian team we could potentially send. I'm down for that. Pain going again. Well, I'm a Pain fan. I'd always love to see them, make it into the conference. Like I'd be sad if they didn't. With Isserus Estral, Jose Diodo going back to the North again, like playing against LTA North when he had former LCS experience, I'd be kind of hyped for that. And then for Leviathan, I want to see Pro Delta and Scary. I've been big fans of Scary and Pro Delta as individuals. And Pro Delta as a player as well. So I would love to see them get international experience. I feel like they deserve that. So for me to say that I generally want to see all of them up there. There's no team that I don't want to see there. Out of all 8 teams, actually, I'm just looking at that again. Out of all 8 teams, like there's a great story for that. Even for Loud, who has griefed me so many times, like, they've got Winsome. Imagine going from NACL in your next split, you're like contesting the top LCS teams, right, or former LCS teams. Like that would be super hype. So, yeah, I'm like down for pretty much every single team in our conference to go north.
Yeah, I agree with Pain and Red for basically the same reasons that you have. I more want to see Pro Delta play against the North than I do Jose Diodo play against the North, and that's basically the only reason for me. Because I've seen Jose Diodo going back to play against them does have cool story for him personally, but I'm more invested in Pro Delta as a player, so I want him to go and do stuff. And I think Sayo as well.
We watch prods from a little prods on Pain all the way up to here. So.
I'm becoming more invested by Sayo by the day. Even from Worlds, I was like, this guy actually seems pretty tight, and like, he's from a tough. A worse region and suffered against our best bot lane duo that's come out of this like region for a long time, and that's fair enough. But I like a lot of what I see from Sayo, and I think that bot lane's very cool. So that's and Scary, I think it's kind of hilarious, honestly, because Scary's been so often like just left at the bottom of the league table whenever he's given a shot in tier 1. and there's such clear value that he offers, but it's such a different kind of value than we're used to seeing in many other people, and the effect he has on teams is so like pronounced, but it's hard to translate that into like international presence or
high
wins.
level.
Yeah, and so that would be like fascinating.
If Leviathan makes it, I want Scary to still be the vibes guy. Like I don't want him to be like mechanical all of a sudden. I want him to still have like I want him to just be vibes and like have North America, who already LTA North has so many good junglers, just be like, how the hell did this guy make it?
Yeah, that's why I think it'd be pretty funny, honestly.
Power of friendship, man.
I think it'd be pretty funny. 404, who's your... Oh, so you said Leviathan, so what's...
But I think I took the question a little bit differently. I said, I was thinking purely on results. Who do I want to go up there and not embarrass us? And I think the highest embarrassment potential is Leviathan.
It's pretty reasonable
because, like you
said,
said,
they'll probably do the worst out of all those four.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted us to all say it together. I thought it was kind of an easy question. But if we went from narrative angles, I think you guys kind of hit all of them. I think there is a compelling reason for pretty much every team and pretty much every player to go up there. It would be absolutely awesome to see so many of these guys, because I think people are only going to care about the stories if we don't go up there and embarrass ourselves. Because at the end of the day, like, you can't just go, it's like, oh, it's so cool that Jose Deodo's back, and he just gets absolutely mauled. Right? Blabber just fists him. Right?
Yeah, like I'm super juiced by the narratives and stuff because we like look at this thing and we watch it intently day in, day out.
We're inundated with it.
And I've not caught up yet to the mindset of we can actually perform now, because I'm still in the like, I'm just here for the narratives because it's fun and interesting. But I forgot that we're a groups qualifying region now. So now we have to be good at the game, which is unfortunate. We have to actually perform now because we did once. So unfortunately,
they're actually suffering from success.
Higher. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That's right. Yeah. I'm in the same situation. I was thinking more narratively. Okay. But it's like, who do I not want to send? Because I think like it'd be arguably the most embarrassing.
Yeah. We're living in the past, IMC. We need to look forward as the dominant side of the LTA now, right? That's what we need to be.
We were the side who got the pentakill first. You know, we're obviously the leaders here.
Exactly. We need to have that mindset. Okay. So last question is, as expected, can you do this last? Yes, we can. At the end of games of League, you get to honor or report players. So let's do that with LTA South. Give us your honor a player that performed well, as well as a player that needs to be reported because they didn't live up to expectations. So...
Okay, I've got mine, and they're both from the same team.
Okay, go for it.
I honestly go for it.
Okay, so my honor is Miryu. I thought Miryu played out of his mind. Like, those Aurora engages are still living in my mind rent-free right now. Like, absolutely insane, incredible mechanical player. My report player is Bertle.
Yeah,
like, it was rough, man. You're coming in from the LPL. You're a Korean top laner, which, okay, to be fair, it's not like this reputation is built by other Koreans, right? But like, they import Korean top laners, and you're expected to dominate the 1v1s. But Bertle just got bodied right from the get-go. Like, he was an active detriment, unfortunately, in that series. So,
yeah, that was a bit rough. I would honor Gigo. In the interest of, I think Miryu is a great honor. I would honor Gigo. I think he did very, very well in all 3 games. And like I said, I just love that it's a guy that we can rely on to always be consistent, despite changing teams, like, not irregularly over the last few years.
Yeah.
He never seems to suffer individually or as a team player, so I really like that. In terms of a report, Geeks. I'm reporting Geeks. So I honor Gigo. And
that Leona game was rough.
The 2 sides of the Geek coin is them, I guess, with both the Gigod and the Gigon, who are now different players, not the same person. And that Leona game was just heinous, man. I think it was just
that's fair.
Very much just lost lamb in the woods, who got kind of savaged.
Wait, just to clarify, the report is up to expectation, right? Not like the worst performing player, yeah?
Didn't
take it
live
kind
up
of
to
anyway.
expectations is the phrasing of the question, but I think we can use a bit of creative license.
Okay,
here.
yeah. So I just want to say that, like, just to clarify, because I think yours is a really strong case situation. When I put Bertle, it's not that he was the worst performing player; it's just that my expectations for him were
and that's
because he was an LPL Korean top laner, you know, like
yeah.
Because I think Giggs did worse than Bertle, to be fair. So I think so.
But like, because everyone was pretty juiced on Marvin and Giggs as a duo specifically, in the same way that like I expected them to look better together than they did. And
That's right.
It did not seem to be the case. 4x4, who would you like to elevate and?
You guys took the good ones. Mirror for me is the kind of the clear
I think
honor.
that's fair. We don't have to necessarily hate on
everybody.
Yeah,
but for the sake of being different, for the sake of doing something a little different, I don't know. I'll say I want to report all of Cade. I just didn't expect him to look as kind of
that's fair.
Just not look as disjointed.
That's tough.
But again, like there were some things to like. There were some things, again, Desamas on Viego, that is something that lives rent free in my head for the worst way possible. But now there's a positive association with it. And took down a team in Leviathan that apparently isn't dog water, right? We put them at the literal bottom of our tier list, and they took care of business. And I will honor Red Canids for having an uncomplicated, simple 2-0 smacking of a team that is a lot worse than you. And that is not always in Red's playbook, right? They have that loud in them where sometimes they just show up, puke all over themselves, and
lose to Liberty or whatever, like just somehow completely.
We talk about loud in that perspective. I feel like Red were the ones who did it first. Like loud just lives in our head because they did it on the international stage. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, Red made it cool.
Yeah, like back even when Titan was on Red, that was still the Red operation. Like that was their modus operandi, right? Like,
okay.
So is that Aegis or Coelho's fault that Red's still like this?
Well, unless Aegis wants to get a coach credit, I think it's going to have to be Coelho's fault. And if Aegis wants credit for the wins, he's going to have credit for the losses. And I imagine he'd probably give that one to Coelho to take off his back. So for now, it's all dubs, but we shall see how it progresses next week. Right. That's going to do us for this week of Gringos Liberados. We'll be back same time, same place on the Twitch at 4 p.m. GMT, 1 p.m. Brazilian time, I believe.
Yep.
And it will... So that's going to be the winner's side and the loser's side. Both more best of threes to come, 2 best of threes in the day. So join us and watch those ones up. We can't wait to see you. Thank you very much for all the support we've had over this last week. It was very cool seeing the support we had in the Twitch channel and including the raids from Captain Flowers. That was very cool.
Yeah.
And it's very nice seeing how many people stuck around for continuing games and series. So we very much appreciate that.
Just a quick addition as well. I believe we'll be getting the first of the best of ones on Sunday as well for the upper bracket side.
That's what it
So we'll get first and second seed sorted this weekend.
So they're going to do 2 best of threes and a best of 1?
Yep.
That's what it says on the LoL Analytics, or not LoL Analytics.
That's a long day.
League fandom or LoL fandom, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's going to be a big one. So there'll be plenty of content, that's for sure. We will not be lacking for games to cast. And I hope we'll see you on the Twitch. Also, feel free to follow us on the socials at LTA_South. And join us on the community Discord where you can ask questions, which we will put your name up on the screen and answer them as we have done for Luna Day and others in the past. And
do you want to do a quick prediction? On first and second seed?
Oh shoot. Pain first.
Ooh,
and
Pain
second.
first.
Pain first, Red second.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that too. Yeah, we're biased.
That's kind of good.
I would like for it. I do think we will get a manito, a team of manitos in the top 4 though.
Yeah, we get some little brothers up there.
I think so. I think the top 4 will be. I think 3 of the top 4 will be Pain, Red, Loud, because those to me feel like but again, it's not saying that they're 3 of the 4 best. They're the 3 of the most that I feel the most kind of certain about because I just have the most kind of tape on them.
Yeah.
But that 4th spot, if you will, that could go to Furia, that could go to Isuris Estral, in my opinion. That's kind of it's 4 choose 5 from those.
Yeah.
That's fair. Leviathan faith for 4th, huh? That's tough, man.
Maybe, but I don't know, man. I think I need to see a little bit more, right? I mean, you beat a very disjointed Cade. Congrats, you deserve your plaudits for that, but you only deserve so many.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. You have to come back next week to find out the answer. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you on Saturday and Sunday for more LTA South.